Sophie and the ARC of Emonglia. Fear's Account. Chapter Unnumbered. Maximum Scruff. A Tale of Terror. The cocoa pan shuddered to a stop. Fear unbuckled, scrambled up like a startled rabbit, and peeked out. They were parked on a corner of a quiet residential square in central London. Sombre, exposed brick Georgian townhouses towered over the bare skeletons of the recently pruned trees lining the pavement. In the middle, a gated stretch of lawn and some evergreen shrubs served as the communal gardens. Bar a few cars parked either side of the road, the square looked empty, eerily so. Dim street lamps and the stubborn absence of sunlight hinted it was either night or London's favourite season, not summer. In this glorious, maddening city, the sun had long sought refuge elsewhere, driven away by the pace of life, congestion, and British politics. Fear glanced at its wristwatch. Nighttime, December, temperature in the minus figures, numbers omitted. "The perfect weather for trouble," said Fear to no one in particular. "Where's the canine?" came from under the cart. Fear looked at the seat next to it. Empty. Blast! Confusion must have jumped out of the cocoa pan when it wasn't looking. "You know that's against protocol," Fear reprimanded. "We've not done a visual sweep, hazard check, or agreed an emergency evacuation procedure. What are you doing down there anyway?" Confusion slid out from under the cart, shaped as a brown garden shovel. "I'm trying to unearth the subject." "In the undercarriage? We've just arrived. Why in the name of adrenal medulla would we land on the subject?" Fear exclaimed. "Remind me, what's a canine again? Is it one of those snooty aardvark types?" Confusion asked. "Snouty, and no," Fear replied, taking a cursory visual. There was no time for a full-on area sweep. Thanks to Morvin's slapdash navigation, number after 12 and before 14 Montague Street was all the way across the road. In sight, but enough death-defying leaps away to make Fear all of a dither, like a cat stuck on a tin roof in the midday sun. Visibility was average. Fear shuddered. The ill-fated union of low-lying fog and broken street lamps was the perfect setting for a pigeon ambush. Fear had never been in an altercation with a city pigeon, but always imagined things kicking off just like this, under the cover of darkness, in a quiet one-way side street, on a cold winter Wednesday, somewhere in central London. As far as Fear was concerned, they were wide open to a bird attack. A fancy city pigeon dinner served up in a motorized turtle bowl, and the longer they waited, the less likely they were to survive. A mild tremor set into Fear's lower extremities. This felt too much like a lull before a hellbird hellstorm. Morvin's cluck interrupted its neurotic ruminations. "Would you like me to wait for you?" "Blast! We are in the middle of pigeon war," Fear yelled, clutching its fists at the driver. "Of course the turtle had to wait. It was their ride home. Stay. Don't wander. And for the love of cortisol, stop clucking about." Fear didn't have the patience to explain to Morvin that it should have dropped them off with the subject, not somewhere in this general vicinity. It was easier to brave the extra distance on foot and manually search the 3-story Georgian townhouse than deal with the hapless newbie driver. "Oh, so the canine is a pigeon. I think I get it now." The shovel of confusion was digging itself deeper into the lexicon hole. "It's a dog. Our subject is a dog," Fear huffed. Fear fiddled with its cloak, wondering how it would convince an earth-dwelling dog back to Emonglia. then climbed out of the car to join confusion on the icy asphalt. They had no way of communicating with Maximum Scruff. Emotions were invisible, inaudible, and intangible on Earth, a purely metaphysical concept capable of guiding the subject through a predefined, limited spectrum of feelings, nothing more. Telepathy, Morse code, a note on the frosted window glass, solutions looped around in Fia's mind like a runaway go-kart. "Can Earth dogs read?" Fia asked, hoping that either Confusion or Morvin knew the answer, and immediately regretted the question. "I'm not sure. I've only just found out the canine's a dog," Confusion replied. "Can canines read?" Ask the wrong emotions and you get the wrong answer, as the saying went. "Blast infinity," Fia hissed, realizing it had tripped over its restraining order again. "Focus. No more distractions, no more breaches, definitely no more birds. Then better get on with the assignment." Rationality, the future of Emonglia, and the blasted pigeons pootling around central London like they own the place would not wait. The sparse street lamps illuminated the way. Fia zigzagged from one circle of light to the next, under the watchful eye of a local fox. The animal seemed at peace with its rubbish bag, but who knew what else was lurking in the shadows? Having cleared the last circle, Fia came face to face with the cold, cruel stare of door number after 12 and before 14. Eyes shut, Fia trickled through the dog flap. It could have just as easily gone through the keyhole, slipped under the door, or used a teeny-tiny crevice in the window pane to rip into the house in a spine-chilling gust of air. Fia's shape and its molecular structure was entirely malleable on Earth, but not its convictions. Creative breaking and entering techniques like chimney sledging was best left to the professionals. Old Man Santa, the cast of Mary Poppins, and big hairy spiders. The only respectable way to enter a home was through the front door, or in this case, the indignity of a dog flap. Confusion should have followed closely behind, but halfway down the street decided to return to the cocoa pan, and then wandered off in the general direction of the fox, presumably mistaking it for the subject. "Blast! I have no time for Confusion's if in doubt fox it out nonsense," muttered Fia under its breath. The dippy-dappy would have to look after itself until Fia was done. The sweet aroma of home-baked cookies filled Fia's nose. Cinnamon, nutmeg, and dark chocolate. Not its favorite combination, but tantalizing nevertheless. Fia opened its eyes. No more numbers. Cookies. So far, so good. The hallway was ordinary. A shoe cabinet to the left, with several pairs of trainers neatly lined up either side. A coat rack draped in winter jackets, hats, scarves, and a dog leash to the right. An umbrella, set of keys, and some unopened mail on a small wooden shelf next to the rack. Fia wiped its feet on the doormat, a quaint human ritual it had observed on so many occasions. Only then did it notice the words etched into the bristly coir. "No need to knock, I know you're here, the dog." Fia froze, its stomachs folding in on themselves. Was this a joke? A warning? A legally binding threat? Cautiously, Fia tiptoed its way into the front room. Large windows, cream blinds drawn open, a snug green sofa with mismatching cushions scattered across the 3 seats, a wooden coffee table pushed right up against the sofa, and a peculiar leafy plant in the corner. Books everywhere, no TV. Other than that, a typical family home in Marylebone. But why no TV? Fia took a double look around the room. It had done some of its best work to TV shows, particularly the news. The absence of a television didn't fit the mold, and anything that didn't fit the mold terrified Fia to its rotten core. Fia was about to set off for the kitchen, but an angry dog growl interrupted the solitary induction to the house. "Hey up," growled the dog. Fortunately, or unfortunately, Fia had found Maximum Scruff, or rather, Maximum Scruff had found Fia. Fia turned. A mid-sized shaggy sheepdog, arguably more hair than dog, stared at it with a mixture of curious and ready-to-rip-your-head-off alert. Its thick grey and white coat covered all of its body and most of its face, bar a black button nose and a shiny pink tongue, which kept moving up and down as the dog breathed. "I won't ask double," the beast insisted. For a split, terrifying second, the dog seemed aware of Fia's presence. Anxiety hit Fia like a tidal wave, rippling through its three stomachs in synchronized doom. Blast! This had to be a coincidence. Had to be. Or was the beastly monstrosity talking to someone else? Fia glanced around. They were alone. "I shouldn't be here," it muttered, fiddling with its cloak. Certainly not without a waybill. This visit was a bad idea from the start. What was Fia thinking, breaking convention to run a paperless, unscheduled call-out to Earth? Change never brought anything good, and the salivating monstrosity staring it down was living proof of this. "If you have no business here, then get out," the dog barked in a strong northern accent. "You can't possibly hear me." Fia shook its head from side to side, more to convince itself than the hellhound. "Thou doubting thy ability to speak or my ability to hear?" the dog asked. Sweat surged from Fia's every pore. Experience of countless call-outs suggested that the subject couldn't see or hear it, but the dog's direct, intelligent stare suggested otherwise. "Answer me!" barked the beast, its growl like thunder rolling through Fia's ribcage. "I was just blast infinity," Fia sputtered, drowning in gulps. It has assumed that the subject was something small and inconspicuous, like a chihuahua or a pug, something that could run around Emonglia undetected by the watchful eyes of the blasted nuthatch CCTV. Not a drooling behemoth with a bark apt for announcing the apocalypse. Fia wanted to help rationality, to save Emonglia, but instincts took over. Barely in control of its trembling legs, it dashed for the hallway, the kitchen, around the cooking aisle, then back to the living room. The hound gave chase, scraping on the wooden floorboards as it tracked the terrified emotion from room to room. Moments later, Fia found itself cornered, regretting every decision it had ever made, wedged between the couch and a peculiar leafy plant in the corner. The vicious beast towered over in a mountain of hair and saliva. Its low-pitched growl unambiguously signaled the end of the call-out. Fia was officially an intruder, no longer welcome to the home and its heartwarming cookie aroma. "Why aren't you afraid? You're supposed to be afraid," Fia wailed, its voice cracking. Earthians had always been afraid of Fia. Everyone, it seems, except for this X-ray vision dog mutant monstrosity. "Thou traipsing about my turf, uninvited by Soph, which means thou either leaving or I've just found myself a new chew toy." Fia's knees buckled. In a fight-or-flight response, hostility wasn't uncommon, but none of it had ever been directed at Fia before. "Who's there?" came from the far end of the room. A female voice, still croaky from the sleep. The human turned on the lights and rushed towards the hound. "What's wrong, Max? What is it, buddy?" The pillow crease on her cheek and dishevelled brown tresses suggested that she'd just woken up. "Silly bear dog, there's no one here," she said with a smile, giving the monster a loving hug. The beast paused, momentarily distracted by the embrace. "Step away from the salivating murder mop, you reckless human," Fia bellowed, flailing its arms like an overzealous air traffic controller directing a stampede. "Ah!" Fia had to save itself. There was no time to rescue the human. Her family, rationality, the council of virtues, even Fia's own conscience would surely understand. Gasping for breath, Fia bolted for the front door, through the dog flap, past the accursed unlucky numerical, and toward the safety of the turtle cocoa pan. The safe circles of light no longer mattered. Its secret assignment no longer mattered. Rationality, the missing arc, the fate of Emonglia, nothing mattered. Fia had to save itself. "For heaven's sake, open the portal and get us out of here," Fia yelled to Morven as it clambered into the cocoa pan. Confusion was already waiting in the cart, comfortably buckled up in the back. "Good, you're here," Fia heaved, one less casualty to explain to the council. "Why are you being chased by a yeti?" drawled Confusion, still shaped like a fox-stalking shovel. Fia turned. "Blast!" The tenacious monstrosity was charging towards them, ears flapping, its freakishly pink tongue out, nose aloft. The human was there too, yelling something incoherently. "Leave! Leave now!" Fia ordered to Morven, frantically fastening the seatbelts. The gaping abyss of the dark hall of matter stared at them from within the portal. Morven took a step forward and plunged onto the tracks. They were almost free. But as the portal was closing, the scruffy mop of hair hurled into the passenger area of the cocoa pan, accidentally pulling the human in with him. They were finally on the way back to Emonglia, except 2 passengers too many. Out of the corner of its eye, Fia glimpsed the fox, still blissfully preoccupied with its rubbish bag, oblivious to the interdimensional chaos unfolding around it. "Blast! This is exactly what happens when you ignore protocol and take a call out to number after 12 and before 14 Montague Street. Never again."
Like and subscribe, or get the full book now on Amazon.